Well, the first thing was the footprint. We're trying to cut back on our ecological footprint. This house has uses a lot of electricity, and we felt that using the natural resources was better than using the power that comes from electric companies.
And we had already moved from oil to electric, and so we wanted to take it one step further. And we knew that we were on a property where we had room for panels.
Well, the electrical bills were quite high. We ran our appliances at different times. Now we run the dishwasher in the daytime and the washer and dryer
On sunny days.
on sunny days, vacuuming, etc. And that's actually quite interesting. That shift is interesting, but it's working out nicely in the long run.
And I think before we had solar, I think in terms of the heating, we were much more conscious of, we haven't lived through a winter yet, but we were much more conscious about the temperatures and keeping the temperatures low, and sometimes not being as comfortable as we might want to be because we knew the electrical bill was high.
Okay, we looked at a lot of different companies that were around, and we'd done a little bit of research and listening to people and how they felt the companies that they had responded. I liked the professional approach to the advertising. I liked things that were said online, and when we got the feedback from you when you came in, that sort of sealed the deal for us.
Because Ron's a researcher, I'm not a researcher. And I said to Ron, well, if I like the guy when it comes, we'll take it from there. And then you came, and here we are.
It all worked out.
It was good. It was good. One of the things that we really liked was that you guys suddenly did the paperwork for the subvention for us. We didn't have to do that. And other people who we knew who already had solar had to do those applications by themselves. And it was so straightforward with you guys.
We did the math on the contracts and everything worked out perfectly. There were no hidden features. It was all right up front. That was quite nice to see.
Yeah, well, yeah. Pleased about that.
Quite good, quite smooth. In fact, there were a couple of challenges in terms of the geography of the field where we put them in, and there were some things about angles, and they worked all that out mathematically. I was watching how they dealt with all that. There were some drilling issues too, because some of it was shale, and they did a great job meeting the challenge of that whole thing.
And I have gardens out there, and I was worried about the trench touching the gardens or destroying the gardens, and it was perfect. The bobcat, I never thought that bobcat would fit through those spaces, but it was a very neat job for the trench. All the guys who worked here, it was good. They were careful, they were friendly, they really seemed to know what they were doing.
And that bobcat guy was a magician.
Yeah.
And the amount of time these guys worked on things, and especially because it was incredibly hot, was incredible. Like a bunch of guys, 12-hour days, it was amazing. So yeah, it was all very impressive.
Huge.
Absolutely. I mean, we're basically down to the minimum for the summertime. It'll be interesting to watch as the winter unfolds and how that works, but I've had some people who've had the experience explain it to us, and there'll be, the credits will be used, and that'll be kind of neat to see.
We have 2 meters out there, so we can see the power that we're making and the power that we're using.
Yeah.
So it's like a giant hockey game with like a giant score.
Yeah. With the weather the way it's been and the summertime the way it is, it's almost a 4-to-1 ratio generating versus what we're using right now, and that's stuff that's in the back pocket for winter. So that's kind of great, kind of exciting.
Yeah. We have already.
Absolutely, yes. We know of 2 people who are already going to be using Sunlight, and some imminently and some next March. So yeah, absolutely. Well, there's a responsibility in terms of environment, for one thing. Secondly, it just makes economical sense. You're going to save in the long run because the price of electricity is going to go up. And in the Sunley situation, the price stays the same, and eventually it's paid off. So.
And the thing that I find interesting is the people who we see who have solar are all very different from each other. The situations are very different. There's us in a kind of a modern house on a fairly big property. There's an old farm down the road that has Sunley panels. We have friends who are going to have it installed, and they live on a small property on in a cottage on the water. And they're all very different situations, and it seems to suit lots of different people. So I find that very interesting.
And the guy down the road who has Sunlight on his roof, and he's running his business using that. So as you said, diversity is good. Yeah.
Well, we have recommended 2 other homeowners, and I don't see any reason why we wouldn't use Sunley again. I think we have to wait for a whole year to see how the electricity, how the solar spreads out over a year and what that actually looks like through the winter. But the interesting thing was you guys did the installation in the spring, even though we had done the sign up in November, so that, the way you explained it, we would have long days and lots of sun, so we could build a credit so that the first winter would be the same as all the other winters. So it'll be interesting to see how that works out.
I enjoyed the conversations with the workers, because they always had time for you, even when they were a little bit under the gun. Because, as I say, there were some issues there that they had some challenges, and in the meantime they were still very friendly, very conversational, and they knew about the island, and they liked to talk about the island, and all that was pretty nice.
And I'm very protective of our space and our things and our property, and I like it when I see people who work here who are respectful of that, and they were very respectful. I never felt for a moment that I couldn't take my eyes off them because something was going to get spoiled or broken or damaged or treated poorly. No, it was great that way. I felt completely at ease with them here.
Well, we feel good about contributing to the environmental movement, to contributing to the fight against climate change, and in my case, I think if we take the next step and we start getting like an electric car or something like that, we'll be able to continue that. So for me, that's a big reason.
And in terms of Sunley, as opposed to another company, when you get a combination of professionalism and friendliness and personability, that's very important for me. And that's how I felt about the whole installation and the whole process, was that people knew what they were talking about. They weren't making stuff up. They weren't telling you just what you wanted to hear because it was a sales pitch. So there was that professionalism, but when the work was done, it was very friendly as well.
Thanks. Don't worry about the change, because it's a big change, or it seems like it's a big change. One of the bits of resistance is the fact that it's all new to a lot of people, so they're a little hesitant and a little bit worried that it's not going to work out the right. But don't worry about the newness of it all. That would be one thing I would say.
And also, I think it seems to be very expensive up front, but you guys have a great financing plan, and it really makes it worthwhile, and it amortizes the payments, and really you're in the black after month 2, so you really can't go wrong. It's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Well, I find the panels very beautiful. I don't find them ugly at all. I think they they're in a field in our back field, and so the silhouette is lovely because it's trees and open space behind. But they also send a message. I really feel like they send a message about who you are and what you're doing and what you care about. So I like that a lot. And the combination of solar panels and hay bales, which we had very briefly on that field, I found was very beautiful. It was the two worlds, the real modern world and the traditional farming world at the same time.
Exactly.